Let's be frank. The last few years of WWE 2K games have not been so great. While 2K Games gears up for the next mainline WWE 2K game, this year we get WWE 2K Battlegrounds, a cartoony and arcadey take on professional wrestling. On paper, that sounds exciting. Something less simmy and more akin to 2011's underappreciated WWE All-Stars. But then you start playing and find that there's virtually nothing beyond the flashy animations, except microtransactions as far as the eye can see. The one thing that WWE Battlegrounds has going for it is that unlike many other wrestling games, it's immediately intuitive. To tell someone how to play, all you need to do is show them a controller and say, here's your punch button, here's your kick button, this is how you throw, this is how you block, remember to press the button on screen when you get grabbed to do a reversal, and if someone tries to pin or submit you, just mash these buttons. Done. This puts Battlegrounds in a unique position of being by far the most approachable wrestling game for complete newcomers in years. But it also comes with a pretty substantial sacrifice, namely, any semblance of depth or complexity to its combat. The move list for every character is extraordinarily thin, with each wrestler only having a small handful of basic combos and throws. Worse still, these moves are copied and pasted onto virtually every wrestler that falls within the same class of either powerhouse, brawler, all-rounder, technician, or high flyer, with only slight differences and unique signature and finishing moves. There are, at the very least, a few meaningful differences between each of the 5 classes. Powerhouses are slow, but have attacks that can power through their opponent's strikes. Brawlers can create weapons like steel chairs and motorcycles out of thin air and have extra power on their strikes. Technicians have extremely powerful throws and can even cause limb damage, which will cause opponents to stagger around briefly. High flyers can jump off the ropes, use running throws, and get to the top rope faster than any of the other classes, and all-arounders can do a little bit of everything. My biggest gripe with the gameplay at Battlegrounds, aside from the poor hit detection, is the reversal system. It simply gives you way too much time to reverse throws, and attempts to balance that by having throws cost a portion of your heat meter, which is what is used to execute your signature and finishing moves. As a result, many of my most competitive online matches of Battlegrounds were also among the most miserable. We just took turns reversing everything, with neither of us making much progress towards ending the match. The addition of power-ups, on the other hand, is great. These are temporary buffs that can either increase the damage of your strikes, give you some health regeneration, or make all of your attacks unblockable. What it all boils down to is that Battlegrounds combat is totally passable as a quick party game that you play for an hour or two and then move on to something else. But measured by any other sort of standard, it falls flat on its face. To tie these shallow matches together, Battlegrounds has an equally shallow campaign mode, which is about Paul Heyman trying to form his own brand of pro wrestling made up of wrestlers from around the world that compete on their home turf. It doesn't take itself seriously and is fully aware of how cheesy and silly it all is, but that doesn't excuse the fact that it is incredibly cheesy and silly. The art style also lacks any flair or charm, and the characters you control are all as one-dimensional as you would expect, given the fact that they are only given 2 comic book pages worth of story at the beginning of each chapter to establish who they are and why you should care about them. The gameplay of the campaign doesn't do much to pick up the slack dropped by the story either. It's just a long string of matches against various superstars, loosely contextualized with another comic book page's worth of story, with occasional rewards such as new battlegrounds, new power-ups, and, most substantially, new characters. It took me about 8 hours to get through the story, and when I was done, I had little desire to go back and collect the rewards that I missed. Things don't get much better in the other modes either. Battleground Challenge is basically the campaign mode minus the story and plus your own created character that you improve via a microtransaction riddled progression system. King of the Battlegrounds is conceptually a neat idea that challenges you to stay alive as long as you can in a battle royale, with new players being teleported in as others get eliminated. But until they fix this major issue,
flapping his gums,
eliminated!
It's kind of a dud of a mode. And finally, as much as I love Mauro Ranallo and Jerry Lawler, their commentary is brutal to listen to. Not because of their performances, they actually do a great job in bringing their on-camera energy to the voiceover. The problem is that their calls are so frequently off the mark. Whether it's calling out the wrong names,
unloads that left hand,
reacting to something super late,
Hey, here we go, an Irish whip. And look at this, whoa, man!
Repeating lines you just heard.
What's he got in mind here? Oh, this has begun. Oh, it is great! What's he got in mind here? Oh, this has begun. Oh, it is great!
Or overreacting to a normal-ass move.
Wow! Did you see that? Unbelievable!
It's just one flub after another. The biggest bummer about WWE 2K Battlegrounds, though, is the way microtransactions pervade just about every corner of it, from its roster of characters, to cosmetics, and to character creation. It's pretty terrible on all fronts, especially because the starting roster is only 24 of the advertised 70 characters, and it's missing some of the biggest stars currently in wrestling. When you first boot the game up, there's no Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and so on. Not to mention the standard options for Create a Wrestler are super boring, and only when you start spending currency will you unlock the really neat looking costumes. While there are daily challenges and online tournaments that can reward you with lots of battle bucks that you can use to unlock wrestlers for free, working to afford the most expensive characters in the store is an extremely grindy exercise and not one that I have any interest in participating in. Going in the direction of a simple, easy to pick up and play pro wrestling game was absolutely the right move as an alternative to the simulation-heavy mainline WWE 2K games. But WWE 2K Battlegrounds botches what should have been a sure thing. Its gameplay is too shallow. Its microtransactions are incredibly obtrusive. Its cartoony art style lacks charm, its hit detection is constantly wonky, and the list goes on and on. It can be fun on a very casual level for a short amount of time if you've got a group of friends to play with, and it's not quite a disaster on the level of WWE 2K20, but WWE 2K Battlegrounds is nonetheless another in a growing series of misses for WWE video games. For more WWE 2K Battlegrounds, check out the first 11 minutes of the campaign. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
This should be good. Oh, yes, it's definitely good. Ow, I've never seen anything like that.